Yes, so Hairless here. Today we have our second VoicePlay reaction. This is Can't Help Falling in Love. I received a fair number of requests for this one. Knowing the original song, I understand that this probably isn't going to be a fun or a wacky one, and VoicePlay are known as the theatre kids, I keep being told. But don't worry, I already know what my next VoicePlay reaction is going to be, and based on its name and thumbnail, it will probably be up more that street a little bit. So again, assuming that this is going to be a fairly calm arrangement and they're not going to do something crazy with this song. I like these calmer songs, especially by a cappella groups. They really put a focus on the musical side of things at core, and when just discovering a new group, these type of songs are helpful to get to understand their voices a bit better and their style of arranging. I've done one other reaction to a cover of this same song, and that was Diana Ankudinova's cover of it. That was in a very different style. In that arrangement, the song musically was actually altered to create a much darker feel. The card for that will be up here if you're curious. That one did make me cry. So I'm wondering what VoicePlay are going to do here in terms of the arrangement. Will they change the song harmonically to create a different feel? How much are they going to alter the original sentiment of the song? In my previous VoicePlay reaction, which was also my first VoicePlay reaction, Nothing Else Matters, I absolutely loved their cover of that. I thought it was a brilliant arrangement. You can find my rating for that in my monthly ratings video for February 2024 card up here. So I think let's just get straight into this one. Everyone knows the original song. I'm very much looking forward to it. My second time hearing VoicePlay.
Wise men say only fools rush in, but I can't help falling in love with you. Shall I stay? Would it be if I can't help falling in love with you? If I can't help falling in love with you. Like a river flows surely to the sea, darling, so it goes. Some things are meant to be.
Wow, okay, firstly, for anyone new here, I do tend to do just usually 1 or 2 pauses, depending on the song length, and then after each pause we go over what we've just heard, kind of like splitting the song into a couple of sections. I get a lot of comments saying that there are no copyright issues with VoicePlay, which is great to hear, and so there's no need to pause, but this is just how I prefer to do things. It's so I don't get overwhelmed by trying to remember everything at the end. So if you don't want to hear my analysis, you can skip to the timestamp here. Right, okay, that, yeah, I was getting goosebumps again. I'm liking what I'm hearing so far. Let's go over what we've heard. There's actually a lot to talk about from that introduction. These arrangements, blimey. Firstly, the lineup. As usual with any new group, I make sure to learn each member by name. So we have the same lineup as last time. We have Lane, Jay Nunn, Ellie, don't know this guy, and then Jeff Castellucci. So instead of Caesar, we have him with the beard. I remember in my last reaction, they said in the description, it says who's who. So this is Earl Elkins Jr., tenor 1. I'll be interested to hear how his voice there works with Ellie. It sounds like it works very, very well. This is from 4 years ago, and I understand Caesar is the newest member, so this makes sense. So back to the opening. We open in a different key from the original song. Here's the original.
Wise men.
And Jeff opens with
Wise men.
So we go from to 4 notes down. Jeff has a lower voice, it makes sense. And Jeff is mostly sticking to the traditional melody, both in terms of rhythms and melody itself. So here I was expecting him to do some sort of croak on the word but. Possibly some pitch adjustment, but that made me laugh internally. Instead of singing this note as per the original melody, he instead drops down an octave from this B to the B that's just here, 1 note off the piano. I like how they give us an indication early on that this is very much a studio recording, at least that's what I feel anyway. We can hear this faint note. Listen out for that. just before everyone else comes in. And this note then overlaps into their entry, so we're hearing more voices than there are parts. Whilst we don't see anyone singing the oo because the camera was on Jeff at that point, when everyone else enters, they're singing homophonically. The same words at the same rhythms at the same time as each other. Then a tiny bit later, we still hear that
Would it be
really, really faintly. You'll probably need to wear headphones to hear that. A very subtle, angelic almost addition. So we get this homophonic entry with all the other parts, not Jeff. They all come in slightly early. But rather it's actually Jeff coming in late because they are singing the traditional melodic rhythm. They come in on the same note singing in unison, and then they use this technique of opening up the arrangement. It's funny, I mentioned this exact same thing in yesterday's home free reaction, but here it is again because it's the same technique used to open up the arrangement from one note moving up and downwards at the same time, growing outwards. Here's a crude drawing that I made on screen to demonstrate this. What I've noticed is that they are enjoying using suspensions in this arrangement. A suspension, in short, is a method of creating tension in the music and then resolving this tension. How it does this is by holding on one note when a chord changes. So this note that is being held no longer belongs in this new chord. Then that dodgy note resolves into a note that does fit in with this new chord. So we get one here on the word stay. That there is a 6-5 suspension, which just means that the note number 6 is the one that causes tension and the note number 5 is the one that is the resolution. So in this case, we're in A, which is therefore number 1. Count up 6 and we get this note here. And then 5 is this note here. So in the chord of A, this is what the 6-5 suspension sounds like. 6 to the resolution on 5. And then just after that, we get another suspension, this time 4-3. So it's the 4th note that then resolves on the 3rd note. And this time we're in E. So if E is number 1, number 4 is the tension, resolving to there, which will sound like this. And then after this suspension, we get a very abrupt come off by everyone before handing over the melody to Bynon. If I can't help. And he's accompanied by these lovely scrunch chords. They're so nice. And again, what was that we just heard? It was another suspension. This time, again, different notes in a different key, which sounds like this. On the topic of these suspensions, and suspensions naturally create scrunch chords, that's how the tension is caused. It's interesting the words they choose to use them on. They use them on should I stay, would it be a sin, and I can't help. So stay, sin, and help. Just after that, Bynon sings by himself, and then we get the word love. Falling in love. No suspensions, no tension caused through notes that don't belong in the chord. This time it's a simple, harmonically basic chord. It's pure for the word love. Then we get this nice section. Ellie, he has a static note. And it's Ellie's note there that's acting as the harmonic core around which all the other parts are moving. And then that leads into another moment of opening up the arrangement. So they all start on the same note and then boom, it's spread across all the ranges. That leads into this bit. Yeah, those chords are luscious. They might be a bit noisy to some people, not noisy in terms of volume, but in terms of non-standard notes, which I can see because these chords, they're filthy, but to me it's good filth. Especially this chord on love. What do we have there? We have... There's one other note in there. Look at that scrunch chord here. And then just after that, we get some nice lyrical representation. The flowing river.
like a river flows surely to the sea?
Again, using suspensions to cause tension temporarily and then quickly resolve it. Alright, a lot to talk about there. Let's carry on. Just before we pause, we had that really nice run from Ellie, so we'll go back to there and go from there.
I'm meant to be. Take my hand.
Take my whole life too, for I can't help falling
to the sea. Darling, so it goes. Some things are meant to be. Take my hand, take my whole life too. For I can't help falling in love with you. For I can't help. For I can't help. For I can't help. For I can't help. For I can't help falling. For I can't help. Whoa, I can't help falling in love with you. If I
Wow. These arrangements, I mean, look, I've heard them twice and both, just crazy good arrangements. I don't want to say I'm anxious now, but my first two voice play experiences have been quite deep songs. Very emotional. So I'm so intrigued to see this more theatre fun side that everyone talks about. Well, that will come in the future. All right, let's go over that second section. That was really nice. So right from where we carried on, they give the melody back to Bynon. It's nice to see the melody being switched around the various voices. We went from Jeff to Ellie to Bynon and etc.
take my.
And it's interesting to see that they use some rhythmic diminution here. The rhythm on the word take is halved. So instead of take my, it's take my. It goes from 2 beats to 1 beat. So in the wider musical context here, the melody is rhythmically displaced. We're used to the original song, which has a melody in equal rhythmic blocks. This alone is enough to create this kind of unique sound to it. I'm sure when we heard this, we're thinking, ooh, that sounds a bit different. But then the other bits of music there too. The rhythms, the chord changes, the scrunch notes, the suspensions, the switching the melodies around. These all contribute to this variety that we're hearing whilst not detracting from the sentiment of the original song. I think it's a great arrangement, really. Then this bit, I like it when they do this. They did that in Nothing Else Matters as well. Although in Nothing Else Matters, they did it a bit quicker. It's where each part comes in one by one very quickly, layered on top of each other. Do-do-dum. Here, the entries between the parts are slower than in Nothing Else Matters, and they hold on the notes for a little bit longer. This allows them some time to put some dynamic variety into the notes. We can hear how they crescendo through the notes and then come off. And again, they're playing with this idea of rhythmic displacement. If we listen to Jeff's word to, it comes a little bit late. It's not late enough to classify it as a completely different rhythmic note, but it's what we'd call tempo rubato, which literally means robbed rhythm, but we use it to talk about irregularities in rhythm in music. Being free with the rhythm, being a bit slower here, a bit quicker there. It's this idea of fluidity. Right, so I've not heard much of Lane's beatboxing yet. I guess that's on me for choosing this song next, but it is good to hear him singing quite exposed. And again, he does another cheeky little suspension with Bynon. On the word help, again, like we had before, tension. And then just after their little suspension, we get this nice return to homophony.
Falling in love with you.
And then it completely breaks away from homophony, and then we get this nice polyphonic section, which in turn leads to a key change.
Like a river flows,
This key change very nicely sets up Ellie to be able to show off that lovely high tenor range of his. He's using a nice mixed voice. It's a blended voice between his chest and his head voice for the higher notes. So on the point of homophony again, them all singing at the same time as each other, the same words, I wanted to point out this bit. Listen to the words are meant to. The non-melody voices, i.e. everyone except for Ellie, are singing homophonically with each other.
Something are meant to be.
Which emphasises the equal common time rhythms they have. Are meant to. And then on the word be, they do stick with singing homophonically together, which then exaggerates what they do here in terms of rhythms. They move away from the equal common time rhythms.
Are meant to be.
Here they use what we call a hemiola, where you sing 3 beats in the space of 2 beats. So instead of 1, 2, we get 1, 2, 3. And again, they're demonstrating this idea of growing out of nothing. I'm noticing from the lowly 2 times I've heard VoicePlay that they appear to be masters of rhythmic variety. These arrangements of theirs, they're so complex rhythmically and they are fluid. They're extremely, extremely fluid. Their ranges as well. What big ranges. Above Ellie's ridiculously high rock tenor voice kind of thing.
Take my hand.
We have this note being sung. I'm guessing that must be Earl Elkins Jr., especially as we get to hear him just afterwards quite vividly. What voice? And then again. And then that leads into this bit. And again, on the point of rhythmic variety, Jeff here has the equal rhythms, the other parts don't. And Jeff's part there leads to this note here, when we're really expecting to hear. They're just teetering in the unexpectedness, keeping us on our toes. And then that sets off this lovely chordal movement that we get. What great modulations, what great chord changes we have here. Really was not expecting them. The standout melodic line for me there on the words with you is the part that goes. Alright, we're getting there. A few more points. After J Nunn's exposed solo, we get repetition.
I can't help,
For I can't help.
These harmonies, nice. And we get Lane back singing, providing the suspension, except this time he doesn't resolve there. He holds on that note. He could resolve up or down, but he doesn't. He keeps that tension all the way and finishes unresolved. The tension. And yeah, I love these repetitions. They're moving upwards in pitch while thickening the texture, and they're becoming polyphonic with individual melodic lines. It's all very cleverly leading us up to the complete opposite of what we're expecting. Disjointed.
can't help.
Homophonic, calm, quieter. That's not what at least I was expecting. I'm expecting this big build-up. And they finish with one final unexpected rhythmic moment, this rhythmic variety I've been drilling in on. They double the length of the word love, and then on with, they half it.
With you.
It's a rhythmical, emotional roller coaster, honestly. And then we get the final chord with the classic supertonic note in there. With the filthy bottom note by Jeff. The supertonic just means the second note of the scale. So in our A chord, if A is 1, then the second note would be this one. And that is also a suspension, so we're left with a final unresolved suspension. Alright, I think that is plenty to say about that one. There's a lot more, but yeah, it's just a great arrangement. I've heard 2 arrangements by them, and I think they're really, really great. So clever and so difficult, that goes without saying. I think let's leave that there. Thank you to everyone who recommended this one. As always, thank you very much for watching. Let me know in the comments which other VoicePlay songs you'd like me to react to in the future. Would very much appreciate a like, subscribe, and if you enjoy my content and want to support me and join the community and maybe vote on polls to decide future reactions, you can do so by joining the Patreon or YouTube memberships linked in the description below, and I will see you next time.